I'm Ariana Grande.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Erivo.
And you're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
Visit bpm.fm to discover more. Hi, I'm Alyse Alan Louis. Welcome to the Theater Podcast with Alan Seals.
Some girls go out with pants that cling. You won't leave home without your purity ring. You don't tempt fate with spaghetti straps. You're a girl who keeps it all under wraps. 'Cause modest is hottest underneath it all, safe and suspended. Modest is
Hey everyone, welcome back to an all-new episode of the Theater Podcast. Intimate personal conversations with the industry's biggest names. I'm your host, Alan Seals, and this is the second of 4 episodes in the Teeth, the Musical Takeover here on the podcast. This episode's guest is with the extraordinary Alyse Alan Louis, known for her powerhouse performances in Amélie, Soft Power, and Mamma Mia. Alyse now captivates audiences with her fearless portrayal of Dawn, the lead in Teeth, now playing at New World Stages through January 5th, 2025. This episode is so incredibly honest. Alyse, thank you so much for sharing everything you did. We explore not only Alyse's artistic journey, but the physical and emotional toll of performing such a demanding and vulnerable role every night. She shares how carrying the stress in her pelvic floor actually has taught her to navigate the intimate connection between body and emotion, and how she's cultivated resilience through setting boundaries and advocating for herself in such a challenging industry. This episode is an inspiring reminder of the importance of self-awareness, both on and off the stage. So everyone, listen up. Make sure you follow me on social media, leave a rating and a review wherever you are listening now, and check out my Patreon or Spotify for the video version of this episode. Now everyone, please enjoy this conversation with Alyse Alan Louis.
My throat is dry and I can't get air, and I don't know why, but this word is there.
Today's guest is a powerhouse performer with an undeniable presence both on and off the stage, who has captured hearts with her work in critically acclaimed productions, including her standout performances in Amélie and Soft Power, with additional Broadway credits including Disaster and Mamma Mia, 2 more of my favorites. Her ability to balance humor, vulnerability, and strength has made her a compelling force in the world of musical theater. She's been part of the groundbreaking project Teeth, the Musical, where she masterfully tackles bold themes with nuance and flair as the formidable Dawn O'Keefe, solidifying her reputation as a fearless artist, unafraid to explore uncharted creative territory. Alyse Alan Louis, welcome to the Theater Podcast.
What a beautiful introduction. Thank you so much.
I gotta wipe the spit off my face. You're welcome.
That is such a beautiful introduction. Thank you.
You're welcome. You can take that with you and play it as ahead of you in every room, so that everyone can just announce.
Literally, if I can play that before auditions, maybe that would help my confidence a lot. That is a really beautiful introduction. Thank you.
Well, now after everyone sees you in Teeth, you won't need to audition anymore. Offer
only. My gosh. Oh, I will definitely still need to audition.
Well, before we get into Teeth, which, again, one of my favorite musicals, because I just love how commercial off-Broadway now is just doing this massive transformation and pushing so many boundaries. We're going to get into that. But let's start at the beginning. So, little Alyse, where did you grow up? What got you into theater?
I grew up outside of Philadelphia in Delaware County in Havertown. And though my parents are not actors, they met in a play in school. Ooh. They met in South Pacific. I think about that a lot. They are so supportive of me and my sister. My sister is also an actor, Jillian Lewis. And yeah, I grew up outside of Philly. I started working in the theater industry as a little kid. I've been talking about this a lot because actually my first professional show was The Goodbye Girl at the Walnut Street Theater. And a few of those cast members actually came to see Teeth recently, which was such a heart-filling experience because Roger Preston Smith, who was in the show, and Bill Bateman, who were both in the cast of The Goodbye Girl, they posted about it after coming to see the show, encouraging others from our cast to come, and all of these folks commenting on their post was so heart-filling because I look up to them so much. So for them to come see the show was such, it meant a lot to me. It was so sentimental for me. Yeah, so that was my first professional show, and I worked in the business all through grade school and high school. And I feel like I met a lot of the same people that cast me now as a child. So they sort of knew kid me.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, that's a pretty wild experience.
You mean like the professional side, the casting directors and whatnot? Wow.
Yes, absolutely. Like, I feel like Tara Rubin, who's a big champion of mine, Tara's known me since I've been maybe 8 or 9 years old. And that office gave me my Broadway debut in Mamma Mia. And so I think often how, like, these are folks in the business who really, like, watched my journey and have watched me grow up. So yeah, and I also did theater. I did theater, at my grade school, my high school. I was part of a summer program too that is incredible in my area called Upper Darby Summer Stage. And that's where I actually watched my sister first do shows. And I watched her do shows in grade school, and I thought, that's what I want to be. That was why I started acting in the first place, was watching her. And so after high school, I then went to NYU for college. I met so many artists in my class who are out here in New York, really making it happen in all areas. Still good friends today, too. We also really support each other. And then came to Teeth in 2011. I started working on new musicals because I had a relationship with the writers at Grad Musical Theater Writing when I was an undergrad at NYU. And so I met Anna, I think
Anna K. Jacobs,
maybe in 2007. And I met her when she was working with her collaborator, Maggie Kate Coleman. They wrote a show called Pop, Who Shot Andy Warhol. Mm-hmm. And that's how I met Anna. I worked with Maggie before that, and she introduced me to Anna. We worked together on Pop, Who Shot Andy Warhol in Pittsburgh in 2012. And the fall before that, Anna got in touch and said, hey, my collaborator, Michael R. Jackson, and I are working on an adaptation of Mitchell Lichtenstein's 2007 film Teeth, and we're presenting a song from it at this concert at Cap 21. We would love for you to sing it. We've been thinking about you for the protagonist, Dawn. And so at the time, Teeth was a duet sung by Dawn and by Brad, Dawn's stepbrother in the show. And that was my first introduction to Teeth.
Huh. That's interesting. When you first heard, though, that they were adapting Teeth, I'm curious what your reaction was. I don't want to lead the witness here. What was your reaction?
I hadn't seen the film, so I had no relationship to the material. And to be honest, I can remember how exciting it was we were learning the song, my duet partner and I, for that evening. And it's clear on the page when working on Teeth that the comedy is based in such truth. So as we were learning the song, and even in rehearsals, we were 100% committed to the truth of this relationship in this song, yes? And then when we performed the song, immediately, one of my favorite lyrics that is not in the show anymore, and Teeth is not a duet any longer, but the Brad character says, she sits on my cock, my blue balls turn to red, and the whole audience erupted in this concert. And it was really the first time that I realized the tone it was riding. Like, I realized right in that moment what tone we were riding. It's like this extremely comedic, high stakes material. But the way that Anna and Michael have written it, the way that it can be played so truthfully is part of also why it's so funny and why there's like a gut punch through that laughter. And I felt immediately learning it that I was so attracted to the tone of it, and attracted to it because I'm somebody in the business that fits in strange cracks. I'm not clear for a lot of people. When I'm cast in a show, when I'm going in for a project,
well, you play very young, yeah.
Yeah, but I also, it's funny. I do play young, and I also play my age, and I do that together. I've done that. I would say for the last decade. I'm either playing this spectrum of an age group or I'm playing my actual age, which is 38. And so I was
going to say like 25, but
yeah, it's 38. And I have to say, like, I'm proud of it too, because I don't think that I could bring the type of truth that I'm interested in bringing when I perform for this particular character moving through this journey at her age if I wasn't my age now.
Yeah.
I feel like kind of in a way growing up with teeth over the last how many years with my career in New York, my time in New York, I feel like the character has become even fuller because of the age that I am playing it. And as as an actor, I fit in some strange cracks because I'm comedic. I play a lot of characters too, but sometimes I feel like in our business, as we package things, my look sort of belies what I play, and that is always we're still working on that in our business. We're still working on that because I feel like there isn't always that imagination when you're in front of a team of people that are putting something together. We want to place people in these boxes, which I understand. I understand that. But what I love so much is that because Anna and Michael and I have a long history together, as they've also built this show and I've had the opportunity to be a part of it, not as the only Dawn. There have been other Dawns, but I have really developed it for a long chunk of time in a lot of different rooms, behind stands and not, and on stages and not. And I kind of feel like they took the material and they knew what I had to offer as an actor, and they made them become one, which is one of the greatest gifts that someone can give you, because it doesn't happen all the time. It doesn't happen that you have history with creators like this. It doesn't happen that you see it through. It doesn't happen that I'm usually much more used to thinking that I won't be around after a couple readings, because that's my experience. My experience is that I might see something for the first couple developmental processes, and then I will hear my voice on a demo that's being sent to other people to audition for the slot. So that's sort of my experience. But yeah, it's been pretty magical to watch this history of us collaborating and then what it did for the creation of Dawn.
How has Dawn evolved over the years? What did you say you first started? 2007?
2011. I met Anna in 2007, but yes, 2011. I would say something that was so beautiful when getting it up on its feet fully, which happened at Open Jar in maybe 2021, too. It was the first time that we were actually bringing a physical life to teeth, where Raja Feather Kelly was choreographing 5 or 6 numbers for teeth. It was we were showing the full show, and we were doing it behind stands, but then also he choreographed 5 numbers to sort of showcase the show and for it to move on, and I felt at that time this big shift where to be able to physicalize Dawn was so much a part of the journey, because for many years behind a stand, yes, there was a lot that I could do in showing this person reconcile her religious life and her sexuality and the feelings that come with it bodily. But, you're sitting up and down. You're not really able to show that in movement. Yeah. And so at Open Jar, and especially with my collaboration with Raja, we had worked together before. So he is also someone that knows my body, knows what it can do, knows how we can discuss sections of movement effectively to make something really, really beautiful. And so I felt at that time being able to, especially as Dawn is at New Testament Village in the beginning of the show, and then she's moving towards a place where she's realizing her body has something to say, and that she does have a relationship with her own body, which is the most important relationship in the show. I felt such a shift there. And then to be able to physicalize dentata was game-changing, because I had never gotten a chance to do that in development before. So to kind of take someone who is this teenager, doesn't know how to relate to herself, but then by the end of the show, really take up space with her body in a way that, I use this word a lot when I was starting to find what dentata was. And for me, dentata is electrical currents coming through appendages. Dentata is, sometimes it's not straight up, it's bent, it's off. That's sort of how I think of her. And I feel like I didn't want necessarily anyone to look at dentata and associate dentata with beauty. I would like you to associate dentata with power. So that really had a extreme effect on my physical life and how I physicalize her.
So hold on. I just looked up dentata as a noun.
Yes.
It's a feminine Portuguese noun that translates to bite in English.
Love
but
that
you're
definition.
describing it as an energy, as a feeling, as a motivation.
Yes, because dentata is something that dentata is a mythological figure, comes up a lot in mythology, and we talk about that mythological figure in Teeth, in the musical. And so in this version of Teeth, this second run, something that has been really amazing to take off the page is that Dawn is being, or at least this is the way I'm thinking of it, Dawn is transforming into dentata because she's being possessed by dentata. The mythological figure has teeth in her vagina.
Yes.
Yes. And so it's been very cool to play around with that transformation in this run because I did so much with the physical life of it. I found so much with Raja, with Chris Bell, who's our associate choreographer, with Krista Marie Jackson, our intimacy coordinator, who by moving through the intimate sections with Dawn and then moving through the intimate sections with dentata, we've learned so much all together about what this person looks like, how she moves.
Oh, is there like a different physical language that you developed for each, like the dentata driven you and then the Dawn driven you?
Yes, that's definitely how I've thought of it, and definitely loved in this second run that you've seen it come off the page. Like our team then saw what was happening in the first run and how we all worked together to create Dawn sort of turning into dentata. In this run, I feel like it's more that Dawn is being possessed by and transforms into dentata. That's the way she sounds, feels, looks, moves.
Isn't that just a large metaphor for everyone going through puberty for the most part?
Absolutely. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Yes, that's absolutely a great point. Yes.
Right. So that's what I took away from it. I was like, this is an extreme visualization of just like being a hormonal teenager. And then I grew up too in North Carolina, where there was a lot of evangelism and there was a lot of oppressive religion in this same sort of vein. And especially like as I was going through my own growth and dating girls who were going through this of their own, they were not only grappling with the physical changes, but the emotional struggles of like pleasing their parents and pleasing their community and pleasing their God, right? And then it always in conflict.
That is such a good point. Yes, and I feel like that transformation is such a reward for me as an actor for a lot of reasons, because I'm also thinking of my prepubescent self.
Yeah.
My pubescent self, myself as an adult. Like it's all part of it. It's all part of it. It's all infused in how she moves, how she relates to others. There's also the part of it that Krista, our intimacy coordinator, yes, there's moments in the show, Dawn is assaulted. And she's assaulted on stage. So there's moments that we needed to craft that are extremely emotional and very deep in terms of what we're showing on stage inside of a comedy, what we're trying to say. And I feel like also what she scored in is there is a moment in the show where Dawn is experiencing sexual pleasure. And so the moment where Dawn then realizes in her sexual experience before her transformation into dentata that she likes what she's feeling, that it's pleasing what she's feeling, and she sort of is able to see that she's aroused and like sort of feel in her hands what that means. That's a moment too that I'm not used to showing. I don't get to show that often.
Right.
I don't get to show that like celebration of arousal as well, that Krista and I scored in. I mean, that's been a really beautiful thing to also feel heart to heart with her as she's made these intimate moments. It's made the collaboration so much deeper too with my partners in the show. Andy Carl, who plays Pastor, but also plays Dr. Godfrey. That is intimacy there. Jared Lofton plays Ryan, and we also have these intimate moments, along with me and Jason Gauthier, who plays Toby in the show, my first boyfriend, sort of first sexual experience, first time we're talking about these feelings with each other. And in that lake scene where Dawn is assaulted, that was a true collaboration with Jason, me, Sarah Benson, our director, Krista Marie Jackson, our intimacy coordinator. These moments that we've also had the time and space for intimacy has also made my connection with these actors so based on a deep trust as we're moving through this musical that's making everybody laugh.
Right.
And it is campy, yes, is fun, and also has these really deep, serious moments.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to the episode. The character of Dawn is going through everything so publicly in terms of, like, as an audience member, we are watching something. We're watching a whole transformation that most people can't even talk about with their life partners, let alone perform in front of an audience.
Yes.
Right? So, I mean, was that part difficult for you? Do you have any, like, of the religious background that you had to separate yourself from? Or?
I do, yeah. I grew up Catholic, so I definitely have that. I think about that often.
Do you?
I think about the idea of guilt as well, like how that manifests in the body as I'm creating Dawn. Like feeling the feelings, and also what happens when we feel that tension of guilt that is human made, but how it affects the body. I think something that's also been really incredible is the conversation that's happened with the Promise Keeper girls, who are played by an array of humanity in our musical.
I love that phrase, an array of humanity.
Yes.
I'm going to use that.
and the PKGs and I, and our entire creative team have had such beautiful conversation about puberty, feelings of shame attached to religion. I mean, the PKGs in so many ways, yes, they all, each Promise Keeper has a distinct individual character, and then as a group make up this Greek chorus that push the entire show forward as Dawn transforms. You know, they are really the mirror for the story, the individual story that you're seeing on stage with this person you're following. But take a song like Shame in My Body, my favorite song in the show. It's a moment like that where in rehearsals as we built it, so much beautiful conversation came up because you have an entire group of people that are talking about shame, guilt, the beauty in experiencing physical feelings, when we all felt it first, how it manifests as artists as well, because we do have open conversations in our business, but that's not necessarily where we came from.
Right.
In our schools, in our families, how we relate, you know, as to ourselves also, as we've had conversations. Absolutely. That's correct. And you know, I feel like it's just been a really cool. Sarah runs a needs-based room. So Sarah Benson is very much about having an access needs circle up at the beginning of every day, where each person in the team, on the team, in the cast, everyone in the rehearsal room as we build, says what they need that day. That could be if you have an injury. That could be if you lost someone in your life. That could be if you didn't get enough sleep. Fostering that type of access needs room also means that you're honestly and authentically hearing from everyone who's building the show, which then makes a beautifully close relationship. And I love too that there's an interesting thing that happens too, because sometimes there's a conversation that is heated that happens in the access needs circle. You know, maybe someone's not getting what they need in communication with a team member. That's the time to talk about it.
Oh,
maybe we learn in that circle that we have to sidebar and not do it in the circle, but it's still, that's what the needs conversation is for. So I think as we continue to have these conversations in our business about how to be great collaborators and great team members, we're learning what these lines are. And I just have to say how thankful I am that she runs a room like that. It's a really, really cool thing.
How has that changed you as an individual, as Alyse? You know, 38-year-old Alyse looking back on young Catholic Alyse, right? Was what was Teeth sort of like 2011 when you started getting involved with this? Was that sort of like your own transformation internally, or did you sort of feel like you needed to separate yourself from it beforehand or afterwards? Or I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it could go many different directions here.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that less about well, actually, now that you're saying it, maybe my Catholic upbringing is sort of a part of this. But to me, when I think about that idea of talking about needs in a room, I think about how in my career specifically, I have felt like it's a muscle I need to learn to work, to be able to say no, to be able to hold a line. And I've had the opportunity to really play some incredible female identifying characters that I don't get to play often, who are a full spectrum of humanity in a way that I feel like there's a lot of roles that aren't written like that, but there's been roles that I've gotten to play like Dawn in Teeth, like Hillary in Soft Power, like Kate in Rattlesnake Kate. These roles and this prism of a female identifying person that I really don't usually get to put out on stage. And what that means is that I have also been challenged to have to really say what I need. I've had to say no a lot with my own boundaries. And I think it's been amazing that Teeth has been parallel to me as I've been learning how to do that, because I have really learned to work the muscle in this room. I've really learned to work the muscle of how to hold a line, how to hold a boundary as Alyse, as I'm making Dawn. And that's been an invaluable gift. And I want to say that sometimes, like, it doesn't always come out the way that I want it to come out, right? When I am speaking about something I need. And what I mean there is that maybe I would shift my tone a bit. But if I don't say it at all, then we're not speaking about it at all.
It eats at you on the inside.
Yeah. So it almost, I need to figure, I've felt like I needed to figure out how to stand strong and say what I need to say. And that's a hard thing to do with a team of, in our business, it's difficult to do with creative teams, because as amazing as creative teams are, as amazing as this relationship between actors and teams are, a lot of the times as actors, we feel like we can't speak up. We feel like our jobs are on the line. We feel like also the team is working for a different entity than us. There's a lot of sort of capitalistic goals that still need to be in their lens as they build with us. So it's pretty amazing then when I'm in a process like Teeth, and this has really been my experience with Sarah, where she has taken yes and no mean the same. They're both like avenues to a choice. And there's no judgment on that. That's even when it has to be repeated. Like when we were doing the workshop at Open Jar, I had tennis elbow on one arm, and I also had a ligament tear in my thumb on the other hand. And what was required for that workshop mostly was putting stands up and down, okay? Which weirdly was the hardest thing for me to do because I had two hands that I couldn't really work with. And this was the first time that Sarah and I were really working on the piece for a longer period of time than just 2 days. We were doing a 3-week, pretty intense, workshop of this show where we were going to put it up for like 75 people in these 4 presentations where we're staging 5 numbers. And it was at that time that I realized how compassionately she runs her room, compassionately and also keeping us on task and also pushing me and challenging me. The balance was so incredible in a way that I really appreciated. And it was just amazing to feel like, she would ask these questions, be like, well, can you get up from a fetal position like during this number? And then, could you move the stand? And I'd be like, I can't. And she would be like, okay. Well, can you? And we would just like move on to the next choice. That's not always the reaction I've gotten in rooms when I'm
It's like, you have to do this. No. I don't care.
Yeah. Or the feeling that you're putting someone out,
Yeah.
Sometimes that's even been more heartbreaking when it is a female identifying director as well. Like you think you're going to find, I think I'm going to find common ground because we share a gender and we share, what I think we share is conditioning as well.
Yeah.
But that
Yeah.
person is still a director. That person is still looking out for the needs of their room as well. They're looking out for a million things that doesn't have anything to do with me, you know? And I've had to adjust too to what it means in the business to be assertive. And there's not like, I feel like when we use these words too, like, am I being a bitch? Am I being assertive? I feel sometimes like a shapeshifter as a woman in the business. Depending on who I'm with, I shapeshift to please that room, which is also part of Dawn. And I feel like it's hard to put these concepts into words, but I feel like on Teeth, there's just been a beautiful kind of culmination of me being able to continue to work this muscle and continue to see how I can not apologize, like in body and verbally. Because somewhere along the way too, from 2011 on, I stopped saying sorry in rehearsal rooms. And I really mean this. I had to practice not saying sorry unless I obviously physically hurt someone.
Right.
I ran into someone, or I, interrupted, said something out of turn that I feel like maybe hurt someone's feelings, was taken away that I didn't mean. But for the most part, I have taken sorry out of my vocabulary, and that's followed me in my journey with Teeth too. So it just happened that this show has run parallel to actor Alyse figuring out how to stand strong in a room, in a business that gives us heartbreak for free, and in a business that doesn't really give you a manual for these very gray areas where we do a hard thing and there's a lot of pressure, but you need to be able to hold a line, or it does feel like people will literally just walk all over your body.
I don't think you're going to have the answer, and I don't have the answer, of course. But I wonder, you were like, at the same time, these two things were happening. Dawn was evolving, and actor Alyse was evolving. But I wonder if one was not pulling the other along, right?
Yeah.
Because it seems like what you brought to Dawn was a reflection of what you were going through, or what you were evolving into as a real person, as a real Alyse person. But then that has a circuitous effect of then shaping what Dawn is doing again, and then it builds, so you're going back and forth between building up Dawn and evolving as Alyse.
You're absolutely right. And as you're saying it, I am actually thinking about something that has really defined me as physical Dawn and emotional Dawn, which is that when I was doing Soft Power, I did the show in 2 productions out of town and at the Public. Incredible experience for me. Couldn't have learned any more. Really joyful and very complicated. And I fell in the show out of town in San Francisco. And I fell during a dance number where Hillary is out there for like the fictional character of Hillary Clinton that was built in that show. Show by David Henry Hwang and Janine Tesori, directed by Lee Silverman. I accidentally fell off a 4-foot tall burger. Because Hillary comes out into a McDonald's and she's
if I had a nickel every time I fell off a burger.
She's doing this dance number that's supposed to cater to every one of her, to every group of people that is there at that campaign rally. Okay, and I have a few costumes that I need to shed during the dance number. And it's probably like 8 minutes in full, choreographed by Sam Pinkleton. And so I accidentally fell off this burger, and I fell very close to my tailbone, and it was during the dance number, and I got up and I did the rest of the 8 minutes, okay, which is very much that's a very telling of me growing up in the business. Like, it's very telling that I just like powered on. I was really hurt, and I came off that night before the second act, like completely in tears, because I had fallen essentially kind of right near my tailbone, okay? And we had 2 more weeks in LA doing this show. I was in such pain for the next 2 weeks, like in such pain. And if I'm honest, though I had the most incredible company managers, Casey McDermott and Megan Alvord, who literally made sure that my body could come back together for these performances, along with my stage manager, David Laurie Parrott. But I felt that it was the first time I realized that nobody was going to give me the reaction I wanted, in terms of like a creative team really seeing how seriously I fell in this moment, really knowing how hard it was to then have this muscle strain for 2 weeks in a show where I dance so much, and it's already a real like physical push. And to be honest, I felt it was heartbreaking. It was really heartbreaking for me. And something that I also feel like came out of that muscle strain after I had healed from it is that because I had tightened everything near my tailbone months after the injury, I started to feel like I had a permanent UTI for months. Okay.
Really?
I could not figure out what was going on. And I've gotten UTIs like in my, like as Alyse, like during my, you know, but I had never had a feeling like this. And I remember sitting at the doctor, she was an OBGYN and she was also a urologist. And I said, could it be muscles? And she's like, well, you did tell me that you were very stressed from this fall. And you did say that it happened near your tailbone. And that is the pelvic bowl. And she was like, and you are, and you're not really fully like emptying out. And it's months after the injury, but you could also be holding. And so months after I had
Like
had this
holding
injury,
tension, you mean?
yes,
Yeah.
months after this injury, I started pelvic floor physical therapy. I never knew this was a thing.
I
never
didn't know
knew it
this was a
existed.
thing. I'm fascinated.
Yeah, I actually went on to YouTube at first to try to understand what I was experiencing. I found these videos by this woman named Dr. Bree, and she actually does like pelvic release sort of videos. And I was like, this is exactly what I'm feeling. Now, she had had experience in her pregnancy sort of symptoms of a different condition, but had this but the same symptoms. And so I was like, oh, I'm feeling the same thing. And so I was in pelvic floor physical therapy for maybe 4 or 5 months, and my PT would talk about how much we hold in the pelvic bowl. She would talk about the connection of emotions and the pelvis.
So wait, the pelvic bowl, is this like, I mean, you hear about gut health and
Yes.
mind and gut relation all the time. Is this like, you know, we hold tension in our gut, which is part of the pelvic bowl? What is the physical
Yeah,
area
actually
of
the pelvic bowl also like constitutes how the hips factor in to your pelvis, the muscles that you're using to go to the bathroom.
Huh.
Like how to not stress them. Like I'm somebody that I also realized as I was working on my pelvic floor health that, and I knew this about myself, but I didn't realize there was an emotional
We're about to get really
component.
personal here,
We
aren't we?
are. But listen, I don't mind. I don't mind because if somebody else has this experience, I feel like it's worth it.
Okay.
I feel like I was somebody who, you know, I'm like a pee holder, and I realized in therapy and also from pelvic floor therapy that this is, and there's an emotional component to that. So along with having had this injury, felt tight in the whole area months later because I'm still healing, I'm still guarding in that area of my body because I had the injury, but because I also felt there was some like care that I needed during that show in a way that I didn't get it. And I feel like I just had that all sitting in my pelvis as I came out of that injury, as I kind of dealt with my feelings about Soft Power as a really challenging show, really joyful experience. But because of the subject matter and because of the pressure I felt, it all sat in like a part of my body that I could really tell it was like very much with me. It was also feelings of like, am I good enough as an actor? Am I?
Yeah.
And so I sort of felt like then I, through pelvic floor physical therapy, realized how much, you know, my hips fire when I'm tense, how much I can really feel my transverse abdominals, how much when I'm doing anything in the bathroom that requires like sitting, how it needs to feel like it's not stressful, that I don't push, that this is something that affects intimacy, that this is something that people, and that it also doesn't just affect female identifying persons, that it affects really anyone of any gender that has a body, because we are all holding an array of feelings in our gut, in the muscles around our pelvis, because we really hold a lot of tension here. And I had to get really up close and personal with my therapist because, you know, also when you're going to pelvic floor physical therapy, you aren't just getting an exercise plan like a PT that's outward.
Right.
They are also helping each week to maintain your health from the inside. So she's like creating a relationship with me that is like, yes, I'm talking to her. And yes, this person that I only met how many weeks ago is making direct contact with my vulva and my vagina to like make sure that these trigger points are allowing everything to release. And so, yeah, as you're talking about this sort of parallel world of me learning about myself as actor Alyse and my boundaries and Dawn being a part of it, I have to say that that entire experience is also definitely why I'm able to get out there and do the performance I do every night, from having that experience and knowing firsthand that also this character has something going on in her pelvis. She has a secret that she's keeping in exactly that part of the body. And I definitely use that each night when I'm out there.
Wow. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to the episode. I am fascinated by all of this, and everything in the body is connected. There's reflexology, and there's, you can map out the body on the foot. Someone's like, massage your eye, under your eyes if your kidneys are tired or something, right? Like, there's all these connections that people are claim to be there, and some scientifically backed and some not, but to each their own, right?
Yeah.
And to be able to, I think, take that past trauma and literally not literally, I was going to say, literally leave it on stage every night in an emotional way, but figuratively, you're taking a giant emotional shit 8 times a week.
7
times.
In this run, because
okay.
Kira Kennedy does 1 and sometimes 2 shows a week. She's incredible. Okay. But yes, 7 times a week, 6 during the weekends, because New World has a 6-show weekend schedule, which I really give us all such credit, because it's really hard.
Yeah.
And it's also about learning how to take the tension out of my body when I'm doing it. This whole experience that we're talking about also allowed for me, if I'm in the scene at the gynecologist in teeth, there's a way that I am making sure that all of that movement happens in my core and my upper body so that my pelvis doesn't react. Because of course, when I'm even doing a simulated gynecological exam, do I feel like those muscles in the lower part of my body are reacting? Yeah, because I'm in a gown and we're doing simulation. So, I mean, and that's the way I feel even about how much love and compassion has been put towards these intimate moments, like the lake scene. Like, Jason and I mean, really all of I know this show, we are talking so much about feminine identity, but the male identifying persons that I get to share the stage with, who I'm heart to heart with every night, are so much a part of why I love this show and why I love coming to work. And we are so close at this point, having built it. Mm-hmm. And so even in that lake scene, it's like, there are times where I've had to hold the line as we talk about building it, where I'm like, oh, actually, I can't put my leg in this like water source to splash as the assault portion of this scene is happening, because it will make the bottom half of me fire. And really, I just want to make sure the top part of me is twisting around so that I don't give my body the idea that it needs to be tense as me during this scene.
Yeah.
Like, I can actually be able to repeat it if I can make it look a certain way, but to my body, make me feel still inside of it all that I'm safe.
I'm fascinated. I go back to something Carrie Butler told me when she was doing Beetlejuice.
I love her.
She had to go to PT to get her psoas muscle. Oof. It's like the side, I think the side of your stomach or side of your abdomen or something. But because she was being scared and falling into the rug 8 times a week, right? Falling down and dying. She was dying 8 times a week. That she hurt this muscle, and she found out, through the same sort of process, that she was holding all of her simulated fear and anxiety in this particular part of her gut. And so ever since then, I've just seen all of these stories like this one and others that are having to realize that they can't use the exact muscles that you would use in the real simulation because your body doesn't realize it's fake.
No, it has no idea. That's like anytime I feel like things get so personal too when we're working with a partner, on stage. My husband and I are both actors. His name's Eric William Morris. And we talk a lot about, when we're opposite people in a show too, there's this magic that happens where it's true. Your body doesn't know the difference. Mm-hmm. That doesn't matter the partner. It's like if you've built something, that your body really is there with you. So it is about also de-rolling for us. It is about, and I'm working on this now. I'm really always working on this to figure out like, what is sort of that like message that I give myself at the end of each show where I'm like, hey, it was amazing to be with you for this like 80 minutes that we do the show, 90 minutes. It's amazing to be with you for this period of time. Now I leave Dawn here.
Yeah.
Now I leave Dawn at the theater. It's okay for her to stay here. It's okay for her not to come home with me. I have a problem with this. Like, I'm still working on this. I'm still working on, as a leader, also like not taking on different energy. I'm learning all of this. That's not like there's no perfect, sometimes recipe. It's like thought of on the spot. But yeah, it's that D-roll. And the amount of times my husband and I have run into friends at PT where we have all just gotten something worked out from our shows and we are in full tears talking about something that day. The amount of times it happens, it's like I can't even count on my hands. I can't even count on my hands because literally you are someone that I was working on a show with said this, an intimacy coordinator, I think when we were working on White Girl in Danger, another one of Michael's shows. And she was talking about the D-roll process, and she was talking about because your body believes that it is up against the bear every time you go and do that show. Yeah. Like it knows at half hour that you're about to go straight in with the bear. And so that's also why all these self-care and figuring out what you need for yourself to feel level, feel safe are so important. Feel like you are yourself inside of it all are so important because you're thinking that you're up against a bear. And that's also why I love in teeth, I wear silicone in a couple of these intimate moments where I'm body to body. It's a silicone piece that goes into my clothes so that when I am doing sexual simulation, I'm not touching the person. It's the silicone touching the body. Again, just another way to be able to show the story and also keep protected as the actor, as the instrument that's doing it every night and needs to figure out a healthy way to repeat it.
I didn't realize that was a thing.
That's a thing?
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder about that. I mean, because you hear about showmances and that turn into romances that turn into disasters. And I think it's because, they don't D-roll. They don't leave that connection in the character in the theater or on set.
It's the great thing about it, too. Like, I met my husband in Mamma Mia. We were opposite each other. Yes, it was a showmance. Sophie Sky. The thing is that, like, yes, I had to learn to get to know him again after we were done the show. But I can't sit here and say that it wasn't incredible to date the person that I was, like, going and doing a show with every night. It was incredible. Like, I think we met for our first date at the stage door of the theater. Like, he was doing another show for 9 weeks, and I was like, well, we can't actually have a real date till, like, you're not in the building, right? And we literally met at the stage door after I did Mamma Mia that night, and he was in rehearsals for Blood Song of Love, a Joe O'Connor show at Ars Nova, and it was like such a romantic thing to be like, great, I'm going to meet you at the stage door of the Winter Garden, and then we'll go down to Talia for a drink, and then the Palm for a first date. That's all like on 50th Street. Like, they're all, I mean, now Talia is the Carnegie Deli, but like it's all, yes, it's all like one thing. It's so funny. But yes, I do think we have to. It's beautiful to be in an artist relationship in that way and to have met that way. And it also can totally be disastrous. It's like the amazing poles of that situation.
That's fun to think about. Like, someone in a certain way, and then, he shows up at the stage door to pick you up, first time meeting your parents. But he shows up to pick you up, and it's like, you sort of described it like a first date because you're now all of a sudden hanging out with someone completely out of the element in which you know them. So
that's completely correct because I knew him as Sky. Like for this, we probably had been doing the show by that point like 4 or 5 months. And I knew he would be we were doing it for a year. I knew he would be out of the show for 9 weeks. And so we were like, great, it's a moment for us to also like not associate each other with this show.
Was that conscious? A conscious decision, or just
it was absolutely a conscious decision.
Really?
At the time, I was very like, I think I was very much like, oh gosh, like we're dating at work, like, you know what I mean? But at the same time, like everyone knew, like everyone at our theater knew. And actually, like I'm thinking about my sweet grandma, who passed at this point, but when she saw Mamma Mia, she was also like a few months, 3 or 4 months in, she was like, I feel like you're like kissing each other extra. Like, I feel like, are you? And I remember it was sweet too, because we went on our first date maybe like a day after her birthday in March. And so I thought it was cute, like calling her up and being like, well, you were right. Like, you were absolutely right. Like, we're going out on this date. And yeah, there were a few extra kisses, but it's wild. I mean, and I really champion those that can make with two artists a relationship work, and those who are also not with an artist. Like, it's okay. Like, I think everything's welcome at the table, but I do feel like in my own experience, having met my husband in a show, which is a way I never thought I would meet a partner. I was like, I'm never dating an actor, of course. And then not just dating an actor, but building a life that I'm extremely proud of with an actor it's a pretty incredible thing.
Wow. Well, good for you.
Thank you.
That's hard. It's hard to do it. It feels like you've got the wherewithal. You've got the like, I asked if it was a conscious decision, because it seems like you realized very much, like, I've got to present myself. I've got to get to present myself in a normal way and learn him in a normal way. And you're getting past that, I guess the natural euphoria you get from the adrenaline of doing a show. Like, you have to just be comfortable with each other outside of the setting. So it's tough.
Yes, and a couple years in, I feel like we did sort of have a big like a blowout in our relationship, where then we needed to like come back together and really even get to know each other even more. And so I kind of feel like it really was an incredible journey for us meeting that way. It also was amazing when we got married to be like going back down the aisle at the end of the ceremony to like Waterloo. Like, we used like a lot of ABBA music like in our in our reception, and it was hilarious. And I say this a lot. Eric is always like reminding me, because I had an incredible time doing Mamma Mia. It was my debut, amazing show, such a great company of people to be with too. But I was very stressed, like anyone would be when they make their debut. And you're in that position, and you're also replacing, which is a beast of its own, with a show that's been long running. Although I have to say, man, Mamma Mia's, even though it was a long running show that really had such an incredible vibe backstage, and they really did shift a lot choreographically each time there was a new turnover, like to keep it fresh and keep it new. But he'll always be like, remember how stressed you were? Like, I know you're having fun with this music and picking this up. Remember how stressed you were at the theater? And I'm like, yes, I was absolutely stressed. Like, I was so in my tanner for the show. We tanned every week. Went to Beach Bum because you're on a Greek island. So
right.
Yeah, it's funny to think about.
Oh wow, yeah. I think it was Neil Brennan who said this in one of his comedy routines once. He was like, "You remember when tanning lotion was a thing? It's like lube for cancer." It's like, yep, I remember that. We are this. You and I are the same age, Alyse, and yes, we had.
It's so weird. It's so weird.
Lube. I apply cancer lube. Okay, so on that terrible transition, let's start wrapping up here, and I'm going to play a game called Plot in 60 Seconds.
Ooh.
So I have a list of 16 popular musicals, 1 through 16.
Oh my gosh.
You give me the number, I give you the musical that corresponds to that number, and then you give me the plot in 60 seconds.
That is so scary. Okay, number 5.
Number 5, I'm going to put 60 seconds up for you here. Number 5 is Les Mis. Go.
60 seconds.
Les Mis, you're watching a group of people move through a time where everyone is poor and down on their luck, be able to survive and be able to rise up against all of the obstacles, war, relationship, capitalism, staying healthy. Staying healthy is very hard in that show. We have really incredible characters: Jean Valjean, Cosette, Fantine.
30 seconds remaining.
Great group of people. That amazing little boy that sings that song that my friend Gerard Canonico played. It's just a wonderful group of people that are singing for their lives, literally, because it's so hard to keep their breath and keep their wits about them in the world that they're in, and they end up doing it.
Okay. Not a single mention of the plot in that treatment you gave me.
No, I can't do it. I'm too nervous. You know, it's funny too, because recently I have been singing with versions of On My Own and with I Dreamed a Dream. As I was like doing my my vocalizing during the summer, I wanted to like take songs that I used to sing as, you know, like when I was learning about musical theater, and so I would put recordings of people that I love next to me on my phone, and I would sing it. So like, love singing with Randy Graff. Like found a recording of her from when she was on this like sort of variety musical theater show. It's one of the most incredible performances I've ever seen. Also Lea Salonga, just like singing with this full orchestra, and me just like on my phone, just like singing with the words to kind of like get myself excited about the song again, but also make sure that I'm vocalizing each day. Incredible.
If you have any of those left over, send them over. We'll post them. Why not? All right. So 3 standard closing questions I ask everybody to wrap up. The first one just simply is, what motivates you?
Connection.
I like that. Okay. What advice would you give to your younger self and younger people listening now, starting out down a similar path?
I would say that it's okay to say no and okay to hold the line.
Good, good, good. I will internalize that myself. Okay, last question. Hardest one. If you could only see one show for the rest of your life, you could see it as many times as you want, what would you see?
Illinois. I would see it so many times. I was so affected by that piece of theater and by what those performers were doing every night. Like I left that theater just alight. I would see that on repeat every day.
That's the first time that's been brought up. I like it. I like that answer. All right. Where can we connect with you online on social media?
You can connect with me at Alyse Louis, and you can connect with the show at @teeth_NYC.
And teeththemusical.com. Get your tickets. And let's see, I'm on Instagram, Threads, TikTok, Facebook, all the places. Leave a rating and review wherever you're listening. Alyse, thank you so much for getting so open and vulnerable and talking about pelvic floors and bowl places and abdomens.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you, Alan.
This was so much fun. Thank you.